Tutakuwa hapa tu with my two left very bad feet just trying to dance. Anyway, karibu sana. This is Morning Cafe. Feel Good Friday starts right here. So unaweza tuambia ungependa, which is your favorite Gatutura song? Oh yes.
Okay. Oh, and yes. Where are your sisters today?
They're coming. They'll be here in a few. They'll be here.
It's a Friday.
Oh yes.
So yes, there'll be a little bit of beauty in studio.
Oh yes. Umesema sisi
tumejaribu tumeshindwa.
Tukajaribu ka makeup kidogo lakini
we need some decoration.
Oh yes. Some beautiful smiles here.
So do stand by for that as well. Let's go straight to the headlines this morning.
On the Standard, pen points for striking doctors as Ruto steps in. The late night
I'm told they've met till 2 a.m.
Oh, yes.
I still did not agree on anything.
Oh, yes.
That's a big headline on the Standard. On the Nation, new taxes in 16 trillion shilling plan. This is Kenyan money. We rarely talk about 16 trillion shillings.
Oh,
even
yes.
our loan levels, I think, are about 11 trillion. 16 trillion shilling.
We mostly see this on Tanzanian papers.
Yes. This is the fourth medium-term plan, 2023-2027.
From the Daily Nation to Business Daily, end of 18% returns for investors. Central Bank of Kenya rejects 37 billion shillings bids. We'll be diving into that later.
Karua hatoshi mboga, asema Kalonzo. Habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Mgogoro waendelea kokota Azimio. Karua akisema ndiye, Kalonzo akisisitiza hajaiva bado.
And how governors are wasting public funds. But then, this one actually is, because we started this week talking about counties and the teething problems in devolution.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. And we are
more interested in the photo down there.
I was also interested.
The 13th African Games, we'll be talking about that. Kenya scooped gold yesterday. Okutoi, actually...
Oh yes, and because we started this week clapping for Manchester United, we shall finish it up clapping for Angela Okutoi.
Congratulations, Angela Okutoi, for getting Kenya gold medal in tennis. When was the last time we got a gold medal from tennis?
Oh.
This is interesting.
On People Daily, why state may hand officials, or rather ban officials from TikTok.
Oh, okay. Bansi and Geshambi will have to tell us more about this. Why state may ban officials from TikTok.
You probably might not be seeing your favorite mheshimiwa on TikTok.
Tuvuke boda tuende Bongo. Kwenye jarida la Mwananchi, siri utekelezaji wa taasisi mpya it's Friday. Hiyo Kiswahili ni mingi sana. Let's move on to a different paper we can understand.
But even as we move on, there's an interesting story there on that paper, and it says
we'll come back to it later.
Hatari ya pochi kwa afya wanaume. Yes.
Okay.
The whole matters your wallet.
Usikalie wallet.
Yes.
In Uganda, the new vision there, Museveni fires 5 ministers, and even more interesting, General Muhoozi is the new Chief of Defense Forces in Uganda. That's the president's son. How about that?
He's been eyeing this title for... He's been
very
eyeing
interesting,
it.
and I think our producer should allow us to talk about this a little more later.
Oh, yes. Getting into international. But then, even as we get into another paper,
all right. I think that's it for the headlines. We'll come back to this.
The Citizen, there you have it. Businesses see brighter future amid tax and ease. Matters tax.
Tanzanian papers are very complex this morning.
Oh, yes.
I prefer the dailies in Uganda.
In Uganda. Oh, yes.
All right. What else do you have for us?
I do have the diary for you, just taking a look at what to expect today. Today is World Water Day. So, Zuka tunacheza chini ya maji leo.
I see what you did there.
Anyway, on the diary, and all right, whatever you have is yesterday's diary, and what yesterday was International Day of Forests. But let me give you a better one, rather fresh one. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua will today preside over the launch of recognition of prior learning policy and a graduation ceremony. First cohort at Kenyatta International Convention Center, KICC, at 8 a.m. In matters education, Vice Chancellors VCs of public and private universities will meet with the universities fund to discuss on funding of cleaner production initiatives, as well as enhancing sustainable financing in the institutions that have a total enrollment of more than 300,000 students. And as I had mentioned, today is World Water Day, so it will be happening under the theme, Leveraging Water for Peace. And the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in his whole speech, emphasized the need for increased transboundary water cooperation. Another interesting bit to see today, the government might be, so yesterday in the whole meeting, and I know we'll be taking a look at all this in the papers, but they formed a whole committee in their late night meeting, the union, as well as government officials. And they formed a whole committee, and they deliberated that they will be meeting today to just finalize and have final details on the whole stalemate that has been there.
This discussion later on will be hosting 3 medical practitioners in studio to just understand what's happening with the health crisis. What exactly are you talking about when you're talking about intern doctors?
Oh, yes. And
what kind of issues they face from their perspective.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And that is your news diary right about now. We'll be also taking a look at what happened on such a day in your history. So the International Criminal Court convicted a Congolese vice president of murder, rape and pillage for combating troops who committed widespread atrocities in the Central African Republic in 2002, between 2002 and 2003. That is your today in history.
All right, time now for us to take a look at the dailies, and we'll be inviting the ladies to help us with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, leo tusome gazeti hivi. Bansi na Gashambi have to be here. You're welcome, promised. Ladies. Good morning, karibuni sana.
Good morning.
Wow, you're looking lovely.
Oh, yes.
Nice to see you, Freddie.
Well,
how are you?
What's happening? Good morning, Gashambi.
Good morning.
So these are the dailies this morning.
Oh, yes.
And yes, I know there's one that we don't have. The People Daily. Do we have that front page of the People Daily? Probably we could start from there. It talks about TikTok and why state may ban officials from TikTok. Now, this is going to be a big discussion on whether or not government officials should be allowed to be part or to open accounts on TikTok. They say it is unsafe. And yes, this is not the first time we're seeing this. In the US, at least about 34 states have given their policy on whether or not the government officials should be doing anything on that platform. What do you think?
What happens to your favorite governor?
Lazima you
Who does the TikTok trends?
Lazima you work.
Si fair, by the way. I'm funny governor vizuri.
TikTok lazima you work.
Kiongozi anaumia tafadhali. Because anyway, if officials, on a light note, if the officials are being banned, then I want Governor Sakaja's followers.
Hey.
Please transfer them to my end,
but then
sir.
again, the question is, it appears we're playing catch-up. I think the host bolted a long time ago. TikTok is already part of this.
Oh, yes.
How do you start telling people, okay, now cancel that account, sell that account? I think they should have done it better.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd really like to know if TikTok responds, you know, when the government writes to them, do they really respond, and what do they say?
I think they're very responsive because when they discuss at government level, you can actually reach out to them. But then again, it should be more about changing the policy or having better guidelines on how to use social media. And it comes across, even on Twitter, yes? There are instances where you find senior, and especially some cabinet secretaries, that you feel, I think we may cross line up. So guidelines should be across board, not just on TikTok. That's what I feel.
Plus there should be even a training for them. You know, just a whole, I mean, if they're having retreat somewhere in Naivasha, they have like a whole 2-day retreat. So this is how you use your social media. This is what you write. This is, this is what you post. This is how you actually manage your account. Because let's say, for example, Nairobi Governor Sakaja has his own WhatsApp. He has his own channel. So you're able to access there, and it has the latest updates on whatever is happening. So imagine that, and it's very fresh, very updated on whatever is happening. So now imagine that translated to somewhere in TikTok. It's quite fresh and everything, and the guidelines are there.
Yeah.
Just a whole retreat on just telling you, so this is TikTok, this is how you use it. Don't just go there and start just posting some very weird stuff. Use that. you use all that in another platform.
So what happens to Salasia? he was doing his house tour the other day.
It's actually on YouTube, right?
He's an entertainer.
YouTuber.
I think it's going to be difficult to try and control that space.
Yeah,
even for
extremely.
senior government officials, because there's my job and there's my personal space.
Yes.
And who are you to tell me not to be part of social media?
Yeah, that's true. And I think TikTok has been causing a lot of chaos, not only in Kenya, but also internationally, because there was a debate last week, I think, in the US, that they wanted to ban TikTok unless TikTok sells some of its shares to the US. So I don't know why this particular app is not as controlled.
For the US, I think it's different because for them it's about business, US-China relations. They have their own issues. In Kenya, we don't have issues with China. We don't really care who owns that.
Yeah.
In the US, they want part ownership. So as long as they have shareholding, then it's okay for government officials to use it.
Maybe they also need to make use of journalists and hire them as PR officers.
Well,
maybe it's about
But
time.
I'm thinking politicians have social media managers, so even when they go for the
Effective ones,
training,
though, I don't know. Some things we see on social media, really.
Yeah, it's
Ask
true.
yourself, does this person have a team?
But do you know you can have a whole social media team, but if you're ungovernable as a leader, then you still want to dictate what goes into the post, regardless of
Ungovernable governor.
what. I see what she did there.
It's a thin line between your work, as you're saying, your work and also your private life.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you want to your viewers and people to see you're also a human.
But journalists hack it.
Journalists
hack it on the social media space.
Then again, that's another whole debate. Should journalists be actually ditching this profession and going to work in government for politicians and senior government officers? Someone asked me that question on a panel this week, and I couldn't answer. But then again, what do we say? Yes, that's the front page of the People Daily. Why state may ban officials from TikTok, and they say legislators told Chinese social media app being used to spread propaganda, steal popular accounts, and dupe Kenyans by fake forest traders and job agencies. That's also a big problem, that so many con artists and scammers have invaded the TikTok space and are using the same to scam Kenyans, and that's the greatest concern.
Oh, yes. And although we take a look at, even as we now also get into the papers, the highlight of the week.
All right. The highlight of the strike by doctors. Well, the strike by doctors enters day 8 today, and it features on the front page of the Standard, pain points for striking doctors as Ruto steps in. Finally, the president stepped in, and he sent his head of public service, Felix Koskei, for that late night meeting that went on up until 1 a.m. They came out, still no agreement.
So that's for the paper, your personal...
Oh, my personal highlight.
Personal
A highlight of the week, Freddie.
Oh, now you see, you're making me look slow.
I told you yesterday you're about 53 years old, and
Yes,
you only have a few years to retire.
Talking about pension. This week has been very interesting. And, let's have yours first. Come back to mine.
All right. Mine has to do with the whole doctors' strike. So the very interesting bit that I got was the fact that in Kenya, having interns, intern doctors really pushing for the pay and the whole KMPD strike that has been going on. Apparently in England as well, the junior doctors are also striking.
Oh, really?
So they've been having a whole long strike. But then on Wednesday midday, 98% of them from the British Medical Association signed a whole strike action to continue the strike that has been there from the 3rd of April all the way to the mid of September. So that's about 6 months. And I was thinking, I thought this was like a whole, third world country kind of problems. The whole strike, it matters doctors, the whole health crisis. But apparently, the England people are also told, fall sick on your own peril. So there's also, whatever we're having in Kenya, in UK, they're also having that.
And
I think that's
the new COVID strain.
That's a whole other thing. Yeah.
That's good.
That's my highlight of the week.
All right.
Right. Mine was probably not a highlight, but it's something that really struck my mind. On Sunday, as we were mourning Rita Tinina, God rest her soul in peace, I tweeted on X, and I said that, God rest her soul in peace. We'll miss you with Sadie for the media fraternity. And someone, first of all, I'm very unfazed by negative comments. They really do not get to me. But someone on Sunday came and told me, God, please bring back Rita, take Gashambi. That really, my heart stops a bit, because that is, and mean, and that really reminded me of someone who was getting into this space, and especially this year, when I started being very active on my social media spaces. I remember a pal of mine called me and told me, now this is the time to align your spirituality, because as much as you get to get a lot of people who like what you do, but in the same breath, you get a lot of people who
hate for no good reason.
And I was also thinking about just the media space and journalists, how this is such an essential piece. This becomes an extension of our job. I don't think, myself, I barely enjoy social media nowadays, because I know, first of all, there are things I shouldn't post. And you see, when someone sees you, they think, oh, your life is perfect, because as you're being taxed, I'm also being taxed.
Please not.
I cannot talk about, I really cannot talk. What you see, our content is this curated content. It's just like 10% of our life. And I'd like to hear maybe from Fred as you talk, how have you managed? Because you've seen the transition from analog to
50 years in media.
Actually, when I joined the media, we didn't even have social media. We only had email.
That's
and email, we could only access it on a cyber cafe back then.
1930?
Well,
Stan is having a huge problem with your age. BC.
After World War II. But then again, yes, I've actually seen and witnessed this transition to now fully social media. You guys live on social media. I don't, fortunately. So I just interact on social media for a few hours, then I move on. I use it very differently. And I can see, but I see even people my age still using social media each and every minute.
Very actively.
I know people my age who do that. So, however old I am.
But I also think interview rooms are changing, because nowadays as a journalist, you go for an interview, they even want to know what are your numbers on social.
Plus, it's also good to note that whatever you post on social media also could come back to
haunt you. That's
So you have to be careful.
The internet never forgets. Someone, one thing with X people on Twitter, they are very good detectives.
They will always pull the receipts.
Yes.
The receipts will be pulled.
Something 5 years ago, you'd even forgotten about it.
Yeah.
Just pluck it out and they're like,
okay,
you remember this day? We never forgot.
All right.
I think for me, it's definitely not a highlight as well. It's rather on a sad note, following the death of content creator Brian Chira. And I think a lot was said when this happened. May his soul rest in peace. I think he rested on Saturday. And immediately that happened, people jumped on TikTok, on Instagram to give their views. Now, one content creator who goes by the name Brenda Michelle, I believe she's wife to TDB producer, she came out and she said something about having Sanpaku eyes. I didn't know what Sanpaku eyes were, but she said is when you have just below this black part of your eye, then you have a lot of white below it. So if you have that, then you have Sanpaku eyes. And if you have Sanpaku eyes, then a lot of bad luck tends to follow you. So I said, okay, I won't stop my research there. I go on Google and I search, what exactly is Sanpaku eyes? Now, according to the Japanese culture, Sanpaku eyes means bad luck. But according to the Chinese culture, it means good luck.
Comme si, comme ça.
Comme si, comme ça. So yeah, I think that was like a highlight for me. That was like something that was like, okay. So anytime you go on TikTok right now and you post a video, people are like, you have Sanpaku eyes. Wow. I can see the Sanpaku eyes in you. And someone just...
I don't want to Google what it is.
And someone commented and said, my grandma is 105 years old and she has Sanpaku eyes. So what are you saying?
So she's lived a life.
What are you saying? So yeah, I think that's it for me.
All right. For me, in the world of movies, finally, James Bond. There's a new guy who's been offered the role to take over from Daniel Craig. His name is Aaron Taylor Johnson. I'm still here to get that name. So yes, this is interesting. I've been following James Bond for quite a while, since the days of Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan, now Daniel Craig, and then guys were expecting that it was going to be a black guy. Everyone was debating on whether or not this guy, what's his name? Idris Elba. Well, finally, it doesn't look like it will happen. The British are very close to that role in that movie, James Bond.
They're quite gatekeepers on it, because I mean, at that time they were like, how can a black guy play this?
Yeah. In fact, someone was arguing that you remember the earlier in the week there was a hashtag about a big royal announcement.
Oh yeah.
So someone was saying probably that is it, that they are going to announce a new James Bond.
Does he look like David Craig?
He's actually quite a hunk, yeah. He has some beard, some long hair like Deshambi. So
Tarzan.
So yeah. So yes, I think Daniel Craig has really grown old now. So yes, it's time for a replacement. He's much younger, and he looks quite robust. I'm in the gym. I'm a chapa gym.
Okay.
Yeah. Something to look forward to. The next James Bond movie.
All right.
Sweet.
All right. Do you have the pulse today?
Yeah, the Pulse, as usual, it embraces beauty, and I love them for that. On the front page of the Pulse, we have a very beautiful lady by the name Unipraise Oulo. She's a model. And we begin on a rather sad note, I think. But on this side, I don't know if you guys know the song Jibagajat.
Oh, yes.
Because Freddy. Jibagajat.
Oh, it's not Jibagnajag.
No, it's Jibagajat. I actually used to think it was Jibagnajag.
I've always also thought that way.
It's Jibagnajat.
You left me.
We dropped you somewhere.
Appraise me.
Fred in the mood left the conversation.
So yeah, I think the song Jibagajat is a song that was trending for the better part of like the last month. It's been done by a group called GOtv, but now they have actually remixed it. Musician Breeder and Major have jumped on the remix.
Ooh,
and it's doing really well. I think, yeah.
Okay.
Now that one's
now you know.
Now you get it. Now you get it. So the song is doing really well on YouTube. It just dropped like 2 days ago, and it has over 100K views.
Wow.
Do you know the song?
Yeah, I've heard. Can I sing it?
Try, because I'm trying to think have I heard that song somewhere.
Are you on TikTok?
It's like
That's
Jibagajat, Jibagnajat, Jibagajat, Jibagnajat. Wanauliza tuko wapi, si tuko Jibagajat. Yeah.
Okay.
Fred has nothing. Zero.
Network zero.
We'll send it to you via Mdundo. That's what I use.
Hey, Mdundo. Tubidi.
No, email. There's a whole option of email that Fred uses on, texting on email. Yes, that would work perfectly.
Stanley?
Oh, yes.
All right.
So that's what is on the Pulse. I can see also Vasha and WRC is imekaribia.
Hey, Subaru boys are about to make a kill anyway. WRC.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it's on the back page of the Standard.
Yes, and so as of next week, we'll be asking gentlemen out there, wanauliza mtu, where are you? Anakuambia nimeenda kuona grandmother Naivasha. And you just know perfectly well that si grandmother ameenda kuona. Oh, yes.
Interestingly, looking at the trends on X, apart from the doctor's strike, I think Twende Vasha 24, WRC Safari Rally, they are the top trends. So yes, it is big news.
Vasha is happening the same time as Davido, because Davido should be in Kenya the same weekend.
Yeah, true.
Gashambi, are we going to WRC? Are we going to see Msanii?
Tough call.
Why not both?
Yeah.
Who's
Davido Mwende Vasha? Well, meanwhile, on the back page of the Standard, they're saying that the WRC Safari Rally Foreign Legion jets in today. So some of the vehicles, some of the teams that will be taking part in the rally are arriving. The first batch of international drivers for the 2024 World Rally Championship WRC, the Safari Rally, is expected to arrive today. And Sports CS said that the Speedstars will be flown to the Masai Mara at the weekend in collaboration with the Ministry of Tourism as part of government strategy to market the country as a top tourism and sporting destination. So they're using the Safari Rally, even beyond the rally, to market Kenya. So those guys arrived today, wapelekwe Masai Mara kawaida, waone Simba,
As usual.
ndovu,
As
nyasi,
usual.
alafu wakuja watutolee vumbi.
Oh, yes.
Dust.
We shall see dust.
Unapanguza dust, unatuma hay ingine juu ya hiyo hay ulikuwa umetuma. And it's okay.
The likes of Karl Van Perra. I mean, these are going to be big names. So at the end of this Safari Rally, these are the kind of names that you're going to be seeing being awarded, because I think this should be, I think, the fifth, probably around the edition, because it has been there for quite a long time. And just some of these names, Karl Van Perra is quite young, but they're the names that really bug some of this. But again, now it's going to be notable to see some new names and some youngsters. Yesterday, taking a look at the mother-daughter, team, teaming up to actually do this. So again, now having a whole new crop of women drivers. So again,
And it takes me back, way back when I was young, because it used to happen
That was
around
way
Easter.
back.
Way back. You know Patrick Njiru?
yes, I do know.
Okay, at least you know Patrick Njiru. I'm sure.
I'm a huge-
We are floating.
Patrick Njiru used to drive a Subaru Impreza. That's the first time we were hearing about Subaru Impreza. Wow, I'm telling you, Patrick Njiru is a hero. Yeah, and the rally used to come around Easter. We would drop everything, close schools, now ni rally. Ilikuwa inapita hapo, kila kitu, kila mtu ako nje.
Unaenda unasimama nje. Unaambiwa usipite.
Ian Duncan.
Ian Duncan,
Yes.
yes.
I tell you.
I like how.
Inspiration behind the
And then, and then,
Red.
Right now,
Yeah, tell
I'm
us.
trying to tell Kenyans the kind, right?
and then Carl Tundu and the likes now.
Yes.
Okay,
You got your history.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Yeah. The rest, you're looking at me like G-Bag and
Hey, but on the Pulse also, they're saying the future is crochet. Crochet ni Uzi. So there's some really dope shoes here. I could definitely have them in my closet. They've been made out of crochet.
Wow.
And I think,
Made in
hey, I bet. Hey, it's
Definitely.
dope.
Wow.
Gashambi, would you rock these
kiatu ama ni
shoes?
sweater?
Ni kiatu imetengenezwa na material ya sweater, and I don't think it's made in Kenya because it's a Nike. It's Nike actually.
But let me ask you, Bansi, with on Monday, was it on Monday or Tuesday, we're taking a look at the weather for Nairobi and most parts of the region. 30 degrees Celsius plus. So you're walking in Nairobi, it's 35 degrees Celsius.
Umevaa sweaters.
And you're saying because of drip, you're not
But
going
it looks
to...
Wear
like a
drip
shoe that
forever.
Bansi would wear. I've seen that shoe and it just looks like
100% I would rock this shoe, but we'll wear it in July.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sweater ya mguu.
Oh, yes.
But now what happens if it rains?
Then you soak.
Get drenched.
Oh Lord.
So this is you telling us indirectly that birthday present tukutafutie hiyo.
Very simple and easy. Say less.
All right.
So I'll call up my shoshin Nyakiminchi and tell her nishonee kiatu.
Utaki kuchukua from Nike.
Atabandika ile Nike.
Well,
Nike.
it is hour. Probably let's take a look at the cartoons quickly.
Oh, yes.
Before we take a break and come back with the news. The cartoon on page 14 of the Standard. And we have Mount Kenya leaders who earlier this week admitted to not reading any of the bills they voted for in Parliament. Now they're going for confession. And they have this cubicle where the priest usually sits inside, but this time around it's Wanjiku who sat inside. And this politician with a bag there branded with a wheelbarrow and the Finance Act 2023 and says, "It's 8 months since my last confession. I'm in government serving Ruto. I never saw the bill, leave alone reading it. I passed it." And of course you can see the reaction there from Wanjiku. That's a cartoon on the page 14 of the Standard. Do you have the Daily Nation?
Yeah, I do. I'm seeing Health CS Nakumicha here with a co-driver. I'm assuming this is the MPDU Secretary General Davji Atela and medical interns. So they're on a bus that's about to roll. Heads will roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the Daily Nation. On People Daily, Stanu's take is, he says the Easter is coming. And welcome to Jerusalem, Kenya. And he has Jesus Christ on top of the donkey. And there's a policeman there. Says, "Be careful. In Kenya, you might die from a road accident than crucifixion. That's quite deep, by the way.
Yeah.
It was the
Very
biggest
deep,
discussion
think
point on
about it.
Monday when we started the week, when we began the week, especially after that accident by involving a KU bus along the Mombasa Road, where 11 students died.
And then the next day on Tuesday, another accident.
Coming from a weekend where we had already lost quite a number of people in the Met, and the previous week that Kapsabet High School bus. So yes, it is high time we become more careful, especially on our roads. It is Friday, Feel Good Friday. Let's ensure we all get home safely. And even as we drive, remember, don't drink and drive.
You must, if you must drink and drive, drink water.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
water and drive.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Speaking of driving, we'll be driving them crazy in Tutura.
Love that.
Hey, Stanley, Mr. Loverboy.
And you call Stanley our brother. Tumekuona.
We have warned you. We have warned you.
Kuforce Brozo napo.
Nothing.
Do it.
Wao ndio wamekata simu.
Ni change hii ratili, wamekata hiyo story.
Wamekata.
Sawa, sawa.
They've said they cannot be brozoned.
All right, you're watching Morning Cafe. Time for us to take a break. When we come back, we'll be having the news and later on that conversation with medical practitioners on trying to get to understand what exactly are they going through from their end. Remember, this is Morning Cafe. It is a Feel Good Friday. A lot more coming up. Don't go far. And before we move on with other news, let's take a look at some news updates. Now, the government and the striking doctors are like two heavyweight boxers in the ring. On one side, the doctors' strike rages on with another huge protest planned by KMPDU set for today. And on the other, the government sticking to its guns with health CS Susan Haumicha threatening to replace the striking doctors. The knockout punch, however, can only land on one party, the Kenyans stuck in the middle. Kisewa Emory tells us more.
Medical interns in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, today held massive protests aimed at pressuring the Ministry of Health to release their internship letters, as well as airing their displeasure at the recent salary decrease of medical interns apparently agreed between the Ministry of Health and the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. This comes just a day before a massive strike is set to be conducted by the KMPDU, announced by their Secretary General, Davji Atela. In a surprising turn of events, today, the Principal Secretary for the State Department of Medical Services, Harry Kimtai, announced that the ministry would be giving interns who want posting letters the said letters beginning today.
Those who have been using the interns, posting of the interns as the cause for this strike, they should therefore call it off, because as a ministry, we've started posting the interns. And the intern program is voluntary. If you want to take it, you come forth.
This would be under decreased salary terms agreed to by the government and the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, a matter that was still under consideration by the KMPDU Thursday. The ministry has set a deadline of April 1st for the interns to pick their letters. As this battle rolls on, Kenyans are caught in the middle without medical services for more than a week.
Daktari hakuna. Daktari wanakusaidia hakuna.
Mimi naomba tu serikali, President Ruto, tafadhali sikia hii maneno ya watu wenye wanafanya hapa ndani, madaktari.
Fika general hakuna usaidizi nimepewa. Mpaka saa hii nashangaa.
With doctors on strike countrywide and the Ministry of Health giving out a deadline of the 1st of April for interns to pick their letters, someone has to budge for there to be a resolution. Kisewa Emory reporting for TV47 at Afya House, Nairobi.
Away from the health crisis, at least 1,180 bags of fake fertilizer have been nabbed in Eregi, Kakamega County. The move comes as the Kenya Bureau of Standards continues to tighten its laws, encouraging farmers to report any instance of substandard products. This now puts Kenyans at a risk of lacking food in a few months to come. As Paul Kirobi reports, farmers are now confused and left in doubt on whether or not there is any goodwill to boost the agriculture sector.
After a series of reports emerging concerning fake fertilizer circulating in the market for some few months now, farmers are now counting losses, and some have started losing hope on whether or not they will make profit after the sale of their produce. A number of them are now complaining over the fake fertilizer in the market, plus the fake seeds that have been purported to be good for the farm. The move is likely to plunge the country into a food crisis in a few months to come.
So kama mbolea itakuja ni mbolea gushi, hii sioni kama hii Kenya tutasaidika. Mwaka ujao watu watalia njaa, watu watakuwa wezi. So hatuoni kama serikali isipodhibiti mambo ya kuleta mbolea gushi, mwaka ujao kuna watu watauana sababu watu watakuwa njaa.
Lakini ile shida tuko naye kwa hii ukulima tuko naye ni mbegu na fertilizer yenyewe. Mbegu zile zinakuja tunaambiwa hizi ni nzuri, hizi nyingine ni nzuri, ukijaribu zote unakuta hakuna kitu inaendelea. Fertilizer pia iko namna hiyo.
Dhara ambayo tutapata katika nchi hii, tutakosa chakula ya kulisha watu wa nchi hii.
By close of business today, at least another 1,180 bags of fertilizers were nabbed by police officers at Eregi in Kakamega County. The report comes even as the Kenya Bureau of Standards released a statement to newsrooms stating that the product trading in the market by the name GPC Original Plus Organic Fertilizer, manufactured by SBL Innovate Manufacturers Limited, does not meet the requirements of the Kenyan standards. The Kenya Bureau of Standards has asked Kenyans that if they happen to come across a product that does not meet the required standards, standards, they should notify the Bureau immediately and report the matter to Wajibika na KEBS, a program that allows the public to report cases of substandard products. Yesterday, while appearing before legislators, KEBS Managing Director Estangare said the fertilizer in question is neither certified by KEBS nor in the government subsidy program. Paul Kerobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, Kenyans will have to wait longer for their passports, a challenge that has been orchestrated by a slow pace of passport reforms, as well as a slow pace on supply chain limitations exploited by corrupt officials. Now, according to Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki, who appeared before the legislators, the Regional Integration Committee vendors supplying passport booklets could not meet Kenya's demand for 3 million passport booklets every quarter. Elizabeth Mutuko reports.
In a meeting with National Assembly Regional Integration Committee, Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki admitted there is a slow pace of passport reforms, blaming the situation on supply chain limitations orchestrated by corrupt officials in the ministry, further vowing to deal with the mess.
Pains me as the minister is when Kenyans pay for a service and they can't get it. That is very, very disheartening. It makes me feel very low. So, but the fees are manageable. They are manageable comparative. But now the challenge is for us to up our service level.
He explained to the members of parliament that the vendors responsible for supplying passport booklets are struggling to keep up with Kenya's demand, which exceeds double the capacity of the suppliers. Currently, they can only manage to supply 1.5 million out of the required 3 million passport booklets every quarter. This shortage has been worsened by difficulties in accessing raw materials and ensuring compliance with international quality control standards.
The picture that we are presenting at Nyayo House is actually disrespectful to the people of Kenya to come there and spend the day there, the whole day, a crowded place, no meals, some young children there, lactating mothers. It is not right.
Kindiki also says the surge in passport applications is fueled by quest for jobs abroad had compounded the situation, driving the backlog to over 1.7 million, with members asking for assurance on when the backlog will be dealt with and normalcy restored.
The problem with the supplier. What will make this committee believe that you really have a problem with the supplies of the passports, or you are just defending yourself, Waziri? We want you to be very clear.
Can you allude to us that there's a problem of implementation in your office? Someone is sleeping on the job. If it's there, who is it? So that the Kenyans can know who is sleeping on that job.
And going forward, anything passports, I'll handle the public communications and I'll take responsibilities for the mess. When the mess is sorted out, everybody else can take the credit.
In the wake of the continued challenges, the CS had instructed the National Intelligence Service to investigate possible vendor wars on the publication and printing of the passport booklet, assuring MPs that within 100 days, the situation would have been dealt with. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47, Nairobi.
Two people have been shot dead by armed bandits in Koloa Ward, Baringo County. The incident took place even after the Rift Valley Regional Commissioner Abi Hassam had issued a 24-hour ultimatum to illegal herders in Baringo North. Now, Koloa Ward MCA Solomon Macau denounced the incident, stating that the two victims were killed while harvesting tomatoes in their farms. Ribiko Ward MCA Daniel Tuwit called for a multi-community approach to address banditry, emphasizing that lasting peace requires tackling the issue in all affected areas.
Tatu peke yake katika Baringo kaskazini ambaye iko na matatizo. Na hii yote imeletwa na watu ambao wanajifanya ni wafugaji. Na wamekuja katika sehemu hii na hawa si wafugaji. Hawa ni majangili, ni magaidi ambao wamekuja pale wakisingizia eti wao ni wafugaji na si wafugaji. Kwa hivyo na sisi tunajua wenye ng'ombe tumewapata. Wote wanatoka Tiati, ni familia 11 ng'ombe zao ndio wanachunga katika sehemu hizo. Kwa hivyo tumewaambia hivi, na kwa muda wa masaa 24 hawa wenye ng'ombe ambao wamelete na wakaingiza katika sehemu hii ya Baringo kaskazini wawarudishe ng'ombe hao mara moja.
Ilifanyika leo kwamba kuna watu walikuwa wana harvest tomatoes. Watu wawili walikuwa na harvest tomatoes, alafu majangili kutoka eneo la market wakaua hao watu wawili. So tumekuja kustumu kitendo hicho.
So, imefika kiwango ambaye imekuwa majabu sasa kuwa sio ng'ombe tena. Hata watu wakulima, watu ambaye wamebadilisha maisha kutoka kufata ng'ombe na kufukuza ng'ombe, watu wamebadilika na kuanza kufuna nyanya na kuanza kutumia maji ya mto Kerio. So imekuwa maajabu sasa kuwa wale wakulima ambao wamebadilisha mambo ya kufukuza ng'ombe na kufuata ng'ombe na kulima ndio wamekuja kuuawa.
Chief Justice Martha Koome has refuted claims that the Judiciary reached an agreement with the executive on the implementation of the affordable housing program. This is in the wake of President William Ruto's claims over the weekend in Bomet that there was an agreement on the affordable housing law. The Chief Justice, who spoke in Naivasha, said the judiciary is independent and cannot be party to a matter already before court.
On a week, the Affordable Housing Act has dominated the headlines inside and outside court. Chief Justice Martha Koome, speaking from Naivasha, has denied the existence of an agreement reached between the judiciary and the executive on the affordable housing program, and that the third arm of the government cannot be party to a matter before court.
Judiciary is not in any capacity able to enter into any agreement with the executive, especially in a matter that is before court. The judiciary was not a party in that cause.
Makofi! The CJ was responding to President William Ruto's remarks in Bomet over the weekend, saying the executive has reached an agreement with the judiciary to formulate law on governing the affordable housing program, which is being challenged in the courts.
Jumatatu, mimi naenda kuweka sahihi sheria mpya ambayo tumekubaliana na mahakama ya mambo ya housing. Kwa sababu we want to make sure that we do that which is going to change our country.
The CJ, while defending the judiciary, said the president was taken out of context or misquoted on an issue she believes is about compliance with court orders.
But all I could say or deduce from that conversation is that it was taken out of context or there was misinterpretation, because what His Excellency was saying is that he agreed with the judgment of the court.
Apul Kamau, TV47.
Now, employers in Kenya have been directed to deduct 1.5% of employees' gross salaries effective the 19th of this month for the affordable housing levy. Also this month, the 2.75% deduction for the Social Health Insurance Fund is set to begin. Our reporter Sheila Chelangat takes us through how these deductions will impact on your payslip.
This March, the take-home pay for salaried Kenyans will lessen as the deductions for the Affordable Housing and Social Health Insurance Fund contributions take effect. Changes which President William Ruto says will boost savings and safeguard the health of workers and their families.
This program will make it possible for a mama mboga who today pays rent at 3,000 to pay 3,000 and own a home in Kenya.
A low-income employee earning a gross salary of 30,000 Kenyan shillings will have to part with 1,275 more after the other statutory deductions, taking home an estimated 25,605 Kenyan shillings. A middle-income earner of a gross salary of 50,000 Kenyan shillings will have an estimated 2,125 more deducted, leaving an estimated net pay of 38,980. and for those earning 100,000, they will lose close to a day's worth of expenditure. The SHIF and house levy deductions will sum up to an estimated 4,250. Those earning 600,000 Kenyan shillings in a month will cede an estimated 25,000 of their take-home salary as the government seeks an additional 350 billion Kenyan shillings in taxes in the upcoming financial year. Non-salaried Kenyans are also required to remit 1.5% of their gross income as housing levy to KRA, the due date for remittance of the levy being the 9th working day after the end of the month. And following the latest legal hurdle on the implementation of the affordable housing law, the High Court declined to issue conservatory orders on housing levy deductions. Sheila Chelangat for TV 47.
All right. Now, those are just some of the stories prepared for you by the TV 47 news desk, and we'll be getting more updates throughout the day. Now, I'd like to focus on the health crisis, and this morning we're privileged to have doctors, the people on the ground. Dr. Bernard Karanja, who's a pharmacist, Dr. Bernice Munyasa, a dentist, and Dr. Austin Omondi, a medical officer. Karibuni sana TV 47. They'll be helping us understand what exactly do doctors go through as we continue probing this issue, the health crisis, and the doctor strike that now enters the 8th day today. But that after the break. Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Fred Indemuli. Time for us to delve into this discussion on the health crisis today. It is a feel-good Friday here at Morning Cafe, but not everyone is feeling so good. The doctors enter their 8th day today on strike. We understand the KMPDU will be leading another protest march across the country this morning again. And it is also featuring on the front pages of the dailies. Today, the Daily Nation has it on some corner there. No end in sight for doctor strike. It is a highlight on the front page, but the Standard has chosen to go with it as a big headline. Pain points for striking doctors as Ruto steps in. Striking doctors were last night watching keenly as the government went on overdrive to try and resolve a stalemate that has kept the medics away from their workplaces, leading to suffering of patients, with President William Ruto sending the head of public service, Felix Koskei, to personally intervene. That meeting went on up until very late into the night. I think even at 1 a.m. The meeting was still on between KMPDU officials and representatives of the government, led by the head of public service, Felix Koskei. They came out at around 1:30 a.m., that was earlier this morning, with still no deal struck. This morning we just want to understand, what exactly do doctors go through? And we have the doctors in studio with us. Dr. Bernard Karanja, who's a pharmacist. Karibu sana TV47. Najua mambo ni magumu, lakini tujaribu kuona vile tutasaidiana kidogo.
Kabisa.
Next to Dr. Karanja is Dr. Branice Munyasa, a dentist, and also quite big on social media. I think the first instance I came across your name was on Twitter, now X. It's a pleasure to host you on TV47.
Pleasure to meet you.
On the far right, Dr. Austin Omondi, a medical officer. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
Now, doctors, many people do not really understand the life of a doctor. When you talk about a doctor, an intern, and people don't understand what exactly do these people do, because interns in other professions are not necessarily the kind of interns we see in the medical profession. And probably just take us through the life of a doctor and the different cadres that are there in this profession, so that we may understand, okay, when they complain about interns, this is what they mean. Let's start with you, Dr. Karanja.
Thank you, Fred. As you said, it's not a very feel-good Friday for most of us in this profession. First, we've seen that when this conversation was brought about interns, most people are trying to put it to perspective, and they're trying to look at their interns in other fields. They're not complaining. They're not even posted. They look for internship. But for us, we are complaining, yet we are always posted, yeah? But what most people don't understand, and one of the things that the PS in charge of medical services, Hilary Kimtai, said is that internship is voluntary. But that is entirely wrong. Mm-hmm. Because for a pharmacist, for a dentist, and for a medical officer, internship is not voluntary. It is part of your training. Mm-hmm. And you have to go to an internship for you to be processed to actually to get into the practice. It's some sort of induction. And it has been taken out of context. And this whole thing has been blown out of proportion because people don't actually understand who an intern is. Mm. And an intern is a now this is for KMPDU, an intern is a graduate pharmacist, a graduate dentist, or a graduate medical officer who's done with school, sat for an internship qualifier exam, and then posted as a doctor on supervision.
So an intern is actually a doctor?
Not as a student, mm-hmm. as the CS tried to put it the other day. An intern is not a student. An intern is actually a doctor, just that there's a bit of supervision to try and fine-tune them and put them in actually the way they should be working.
Okay. And Dr. Branice, there's been this argument, and I've seen even part of the conversation that was going on was in the naming of the intern doctors. And there's even a suggestion that they should not be called interns. They should be junior doctors. Is that the proper reference, according to what you feel?
Well, maybe if we look at international standards, for example, maybe if you look maybe in the US, we have people like what he has said, that once graduation, there's this period of time where you have to go and undergo supervision before you become a medical officer, a dental officer, and then a pharmacist, like he said, okay? So this period, like he said, is just under supervision. And then now you could be properly now named junior doctor. So you have to undergo internship before you become junior doctor. But here we don't usually use the term junior doctor. It just goes directly into being called medical officer, dental officer.
Straight from internship?
Yes, straight from internship. But the hierarchy is that you're internship, a medical officer, then you're a junior consultant, and then you're a consultant and the senior consultant.
At what point do you become a doctor? To get that reference, DR?
The moment you finish your exams and you read your Hippocrates oath and he says, I'm a doctor, that's the point. You become a doctor.
So even the intern is a doctor?
Even the intern already has the title doctor.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And Dr. Austin, you just take us through the different cadres because fine, there's a student, medical student. How do you get to, being called a professional, being called a specialist? Because many Kenyans don't really understand these different cadres. And probably that's where the disconnect comes in.
So usually after medical school, which is a program that runs for 6 years, you go for your compulsory internship, which is a year's program. So during the year's program, you're called a medical officer intern, at which point you have the title doctor. So you're not a student by any measure. You're actually a doctor who works, you clock in your hours, you see your patients. Particularly in Kenya, the intern is usually the first line of defense when a patient comes in through the setup. Why is this the case? First of all, because the government and the county governments have refused to post medical doctors. Once you leave becoming an intern, you become a medical officer, after which you go back for a master's program like the one that Dr. Brani is undertaking, which is usually from around 4 years to 6 years, depending on whatever you choose to do. If you're doing something like neurosurgery, you do for 6 years. Most master's programs in medicine are usually 4 years long. During which you usually do not get paid. You work for free and you slave.
At what point is this?
During master's program, before you become a consultant, you become a resident. At which point you work for free while also paying punitive fees at the same time. So it is very deceptive for us to talk about the same way. I don't think you would call a resident who actually has a license that they're actually students. They do work for free in our Kenyan setup. After that, you become now a consultant. And even when you become a consultant, you have to do a 1-year program where you're sort of supervised as well. You become a junior consultant. After the 1-year program, you become a fully fledged consultant. So that is basically how we rise through the steps in the medical field.
But then the question is, what exactly does this intern do? Because we've seen reports, and these are just emerging issues, that some interns are the ones who run hospitals in some counties. And from what I understand, they should be under supervision for that 1-year period. Is it a failing system, or what exactly is happening?
First of all, Indimuli, being under supervision doesn't mean you're not working. And this is a concept that we are not getting. Being an intern, you do everything. Now this is as per the 2017 CBA. You do everything that you're supposed to do as a doctor. The only aspect that we are adding is that you are under supervision. So if a doctor works for 40 hours, you come in and clock in 40 hours a week. Everything that a doctor is supposed to do, you come and do it. Just that there's a bit of supervision. What has been taken out of context is actually what the CS said, that an intern is no one's employee. Trying to paint a picture of a person, of an attaché, the picture that has been painted of an intern is a person who is actually on attachment.
Isn't that the case?
It isn't the case. An attaché is a student who's still who is still in school. But once you're out of school, that's when you become an intern. I'll give you an example as a pharmacist. If you're a pharmacist intern, say you're working in a setup that has a cancer center, you'll go in, you'll do your chemo mixing, you will prepare all the drugs required for a cancer patient, and you know how much of a risk that is. Yet now we want to come and say this person is not even supposed to be paid. You want to remove their risk allowances.
So they do the mixing. Do they go ahead and administer the same medication to them?
They do. Anything that is supposed to be done by a doctor, you do it. Now, when it comes to to what you talked about, a failing system, the question is, why is it that interns have become the first line of defense? It's because the ministry has refused to comply with the staffing norms as per the 2017 CBA. There's a clause that talks about absorption, posting after internship. And it says in that 2017 CBA, if they have read it, that after internship, anyone, the medical officer, the pharmacist, the dental officer qualifies to join the system as a doctor. And that's where the problem comes in. You do your internship, you finish, you are well equipped now as a doctor, but then you go back to the streets. No one is there to employ you. The staffing norms are not being adhered to. So the system itself pushes you away. Okay. So we have a deficit, and currently we're talking about around 38,000. And you had it. We have a ratio of 1 doctor is to 1,700 patients. So what does it mean? That these intern that you're criticizing, these intern that you're saying that you have 50 who wants to work for free, are actually the people who run the system, because you have failed to employ doctors, you have failed to absorb doctors, and then you want to go ahead and now knock off these interns from the system.
I'm trying to understand where the problem begins, because now we're talking about posting of interns and absorption of doctors after internship. And the numbers are not adding up, because if at all there are 4,000 interns who have not been posted yet, and you're saying at the end of it, about 1,200 should be absorbed into the system.
3,000. We have 3,000 unemployed doctors.
Also, there are 3,000 unemployed doctors.
Yes.
At a time when there's a deficit of doctors, and we've seen across all counties, it should be obvious.
Yes.
Where is the issue? Where is the issue? Is it, once again, is it a failing health system that fails to absorb all doctors despite the kind of resources put in to actually educate you?
Well, maybe I'll have to take you a little back to 2017 during the major strike that happened, and which led to the CBA document. At that time, I remember I was also in final year of school, and we were all talking about why you're not posting doctors and all that. So this deficit, like you're saying, and then let's remember that internship is one year. So you're getting from a cohort of internship, and then you're getting into unemployed doctor. And then from an employed doctor, you're wondering, should you go back for your master's? And then from your master's, like he said, you're working for free, and then now consultant, okay? So for me, honestly, I'd say this as a failing system, because the systems that are working, this is how an ideal system would look like, okay? So a medical doctor would finish, a dentist, a pharmacist, they'd go into the internship program, and then they'd immediately get into a paid residency program. So what is a residency program? A residency is where doctors have already identified which specialty they're doing. So essentially you're posted to, you work in a hospital where, for example, you're a resident maybe in, like what I'm doing, oral and maxillofacial surgery, or neurosurgery, or plastic surgery. So you're already working in the department as a plastic surgeon. You're doing things that plastic surgeons would otherwise do. And as you're doing this, you're actually getting paid. So you see, we created a system where we are having medical officers that are chronic, just floating out there. Yet it's supposed to be internship, residency, consultancy, okay? So when this system is not lined up the way it's supposed to be in an ideal health system, then now we end up having this black holes in between, and we keep getting back and being thrown back every time.
And of course the challenge has been due to the population. Even student population in the medical field has really ballooned. Previously, probably we had only one medical school, which churned out about 400, 500 doctors, and it was possible to absorb all of them into the public health system. Now, when you're talking about 4,000, 3,000, 4,000 doctors every year, it may be impossible even for the public health system to absorb all of them. Dr. Moni, don't you think that probably is what the government is grappling with, that the numbers are just too big?
That is a very good question. Thank you for asking that. If you turn to your dailies in is the standard, right? On page 3, it says we have a demand of doctors of around 50,000. Okay, we produce an average of 1,300 doctors per year. There are 4,000 doctors who are unemployed. If you add that number up, that is around 5,000. The deficit is around 45,000. We are not overproducing doctors. We are underemploying doctors. Now, let me tell you how many hours an intern clerks. I don't know how many hours you work per week. I don't know how many hours the CS works per week. But an intern works 130 hours out of 168. That is 77% of your time is spent in hospital. What does supervision actually mean? Does it mean that, hey, fanya kazi na kuangalia? No. Medicine is an art as well as it is a science. The science part you get in school, the art is refined during internship. When a consultant shows you something once, from there on out, you learn how to do that yourself. After umefunzwa how to manage diabetes in school, you come back to the ground, because what you're taught in school is usually the ideal setup. When you come to the ground where we don't have facilities, we don't have resources, we don't have even the ideal medicine, that is where you're fine-tuned to work in a low-resource setup. That is basically what supervision is. You can be told, ideally, this should work this way, this way, this way, but because we don't have the money and the national government hasn't bought, for example, this kind of medication, here we use 1, 2, 3. That is what supervision usually means. Interns are not clueless. Now, back to whatever you asked about, are there too many doctors? We are living in a country where we are increasing the budget for State House, we're increasing the budget for tea, we're increasing budgets for curtains. We cannot therefore say that the doctors of all people who actually serve the general population need to take a pay cut. If I was taking a pay cut and the president is taking a pay cut and the CS is taking a pay cut and there are no useless positions like, for example, the CAS, which is basically now, from what I'm seeing here, we have an unlimited number. We cannot therefore take a pay cut as people who are technocrats while the politicians get to enjoy more things. Why do you need billions for tea? That is the question to the CS. Why do you need billions for tea? Why do the MPs get a pay rise?
Yes, it's true. It's an issue of priority. But when it comes to the expectation that the public health system in Kenya should absorb all these officers, I think that's where the challenge is. Yes. That the government is struggling, because even on education matters, with a growing population, even the capitation for schools is reducing. The expectation that all the doctors churned out through this system will be absorbed into the public health system. Is it a legitimate expectation?
You know, it wouldn't make sense to absorb all of them if we had adequate. What we are not getting is that we are already understaffed. We are not allocating even enough to the healthcare. We are talking about universal health coverage, but we are not working towards it. It is just big talk. It's just in the manifesto. It's just something we come and talk about so that we can woo people to vote for the government. But we are not intentional, especially the government is not intentional on achieving UHC. Because at the very center of UHC are the healthcare workers, are the doctors. So how can we say that it is not possible to absorb everyone when we actually don't have enough in the system? You see the president, and this is a very sad state of affairs, and you see the CS talking about exporting labor. How do you start exporting labor when you don't have enough in your system? It doesn't make sense. You talk about sending doctors and telling them to apply for jobs, I don't know where, telling them that you have 25,000 nurses being sent out. Why do you want to send them out yet we don't have enough in Kenya? Austin tells you that an intern works over 130 hours. Why? Because even the doctors in that station are not enough. So you'll have to take advantage of an intern for you to be able to sustain the system. And this is what the CS doesn't seem to get. You heard her very well talk about 50 interns who want to work for free. And she says that I have 50 interns who call me and they want to work for free. Do you have CS's number?
No, I don't.
Unless their parents called. And if it's the parents who call, it means it's a whole connected system. There are people of a very different cadre. And this is the problem that we have. We have in the ministry, at the helm of the ministry, people who don't understand or people who don't want to understand where we are when it comes to the health.
It's a problem that has persisted for a while. We cannot really blame it on this particular administration.
Yes.
But let's come back to the interns, because I really need to understand from your perspective. You've all been interns at some point.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to earnings. We've seen what has been published, 47,000 shillings to 100,000, and some interns are saying, wow, you're earning 47,000 shillings as an intern. This is a lot of money, but you don't see it that way. Why is it? And probably, how much does a medical intern earn? Probably now you're comfortable to say, because I'm sure you earn more. Dr. Bernice.
Okay, so first of all, let me just paint for you a picture of what a dental intern will be doing. I'd borrow from my internship period, which I did at Kenyatta National Hospital. So I can assure you, if you land into the KNH dental department, the first person who will see you will be the intern. The intern will be the one who will do your dental extractions. The intern will be the one who will do your cleaning. If you land into casualty with someone, maybe you are assaulted and you have a laceration on your face, it's the intern who's going to stitch your face back and send you back home. If you come with them, it's the intern who's going to see you, make sure they've taken all the investigations that needed before they call. The second on call will probably be a resident, or the third on call will probably be a consultant, okay? So basically, like my colleagues have said, it's the interns who are running. They are the first contact. It's the person that you will learn to. So I feel it's very unfortunate when I see people name calling and whatnot, yet they don't know that when they land into any public hospital, it's the intern who's going to see them the first.
How much does a medical intern earn?
So let's see. So according the CBA 2017 negotiated for around about 147, 150, 149. So that is what I got in my internship. That was back in 2017. And
147,000.
Yes, 147. Okay. Yeah, but this means that I was doing calls. What do calls mean? Okay, it means that any emergency happening in KNH, dental emergency or maxillofacial emergency, is the intern who will go there. This means that you're either in the call rooms, which might be there, might not be there in some centers, and you're at the hospital Monday 8 a.m. to Monday the next week 8 a.m. Sometimes for interns, they might be two alternating. I cover today, the next day you cover. But you see, this is a week you're at the hospital on call. If the hospital calls, you need to be there within 5 minutes. Okay, so these are the kind of things that interns are doing. Yeah, so even for dentists, let's just understand that it's really unfair to say that they're students, because for dentistry, for example, you start seeing patients from third year. Like for example, if you go to your own dental school, you'll have third years, fourth years, fifth years are the ones doing your fillings, extractions, and doing all this. So by the time this fifth year is going to internship, they've already had exposure from third year seeing patients. So they're only fine-tuning there. So they do deserve that remuneration.
And I've done simple mathematics from that. There are 4,000 intern doctors that should be taken through 1 year. So 147,000 times 4,000 intern doctors.
It's actually 1,000.
It's 1,000.
The number is 1,000.
They're only 1,000.
Yeah, 300.
Oh, but
4,000 is the
where is the 4,000 coming from?
Unemployed.
Unemployed doctors.
Unemployed doctors.
Out of
so 1,000 intern doctors the whole year. It's about 1.7 billion shillings.
Yes.
This is what you feel the government can afford.
The government can afford.
How much is allocated to the office of the cabinet chief cabinet secretary?
Well, I don't know how much it is, but I know at least
it is not 1.7.
1 billion.
It's actually an unconstitutional position. The CBA is actually in the law. Some of these positions are not in the law. Okay.
Is there demand for interns to be paid more as part of
But let me ask
there is no demand for interns to be paid more. You know, we have a CBA that came into play in 2017. And let me just give you a perspective to this. In 2013, there was a very infamous CBA, and there was a fight between the union and the government. And they came into an agreement in 2013. But again in 2014, the government went ahead and did what it is trying to do right now. It did not pay non-practice allowance to intern for almost 10 months. So again, the union went back to fight. And in 2015, all that was cleared. But now, interns and internship became very integral to the conversation that led to 2017. And in fact, according to the former SG of KMPDU, he says that among the 3 issues that were highly contested in the 2017 CBA, one of them was the internship. And actually, they all failed to agree. And it is the president who came in and gave an approval and a go-ahead and said, well, we have argued about this thing for a long time, let's have it. Let interns be posted, let them clock the number of hours they need to, and let them be paid that amount of money that they're getting paid. And this CBA was registered now in court. There follows, there's the Employment Act, Labor Relations Act, Work Injury Benefit Act, and Occupational Safety and Health Act. The CBA is entrenched in all these 4. So for you to come and say that you have an advisory from the ministry, that you wrote to the ministry and you are told to pay interns 47 to 70,000, what are you telling us? You have a CBA that you're working with.
So they're actually going...
You have a law, exactly. And what we are talking about and what KMPDU is agitating for is implementation of the CBA as it should be.
What's the genesis of this 47,000 to 70? If at all you've been interns and you're earning 147,000, what is the genesis of this figure, 47,000?
So a very interesting thing, just to take you back a little bit. Brani said a very important point. In 2017, the interns would earn 149,000 shillings. The current medical interns earn 130K. Have the times gotten better? Is it cheaper now? Like, do we deserve to be paid less compared to 2017? Times have gotten worse. Are our MPs being paid better now compared to 2017? The answer is yes. Is everybody else in government being paid better to cushion them from hard economic times? Yes. Are the patients getting fewer? No, they're not. Is healthcare getting better? Even according to you, from a general Mananchi perspective, from outside looking in, has healthcare become better?
No, necessarily.
It definitely has not. So the burden on the doctor has in fact become worse, and the pay has become even poorer. The current deduction is around 19,000 shillings. You get?
That is currently?
Yeah, currently. Compared to 2017, when the CBA was signed, we're actually even earning worse now than when the CBA was signed.
It's the discussion about 27 to 70,000 shillings. I'm wondering, where did that come from?
That we definitely have no idea. Even to us, it's a shock. Like, for us, we are asking ourselves, like, for her, what is the value of a patient's life? Like, are we reducing Mwananchi healthcare, the value of a healthy population, to 47,000 to people who are sick?
It's a whole new discussion.
It's a whole new
lowering
discussion.
The amount paid to interns.
There's no, and it's unfair for really for you to call it stipend when these people are on the front line saving lives. Okay, are we saying that we're reducing Kenyans' lives to 47,000? Is that what is worth?
At a time when we're transitioning to universal healthcare and from NHIF to SHIF, it's a whole new ball game.
Yeah.
And your input as medical professional is going to be key. With this kind of treatment by governments, what do you foresee will happen once the SHIF is rolled out?
I think we've already seen what is happening. The government doesn't want to come to the table with clean hands, but they want the union to come to the table with clean hands. And it's not going to happen. There's a lot that, if this government is really intentional on achieving its manifesto in terms of healthcare, they need the doctors, they need the union, they actually need everyone on board. But when the government tries now to mistreat and to look down upon doctors and make statements that appear to be very condescending, it becomes difficult for even if your employer starts today, walks in here and trashes your good blazer, how will you feel? Bad. Tomorrow you'll not come here motivated to work. It is time for the government and Ministry of Health to know that they actually need the doctors on their side. So when you come and start trashing everything that has been laid down, when you come down and start saying that you wrote to the ministry and asked for an advice, what exactly are you asking for advice for? You know, in the Muli, you're asking a very pertinent question. You're asking, where did this discussion about 47,000 come from? Nowhere. There's a CBA that
it's a new introduction.
There's a CBA that should be implemented. There are guidelines on how interns should be remunerated. There are guidelines on the staffing norms and how doctors should be treated. So where did the CS get the guts to write to the ministry and ask for advice? She's asking for advice for what exactly?
Yeah.
Because the advice is already there in the CBA. And when I look at it, I see it this way. The CBA was supposed to be between 2017 to 2021, yeah? And now they've seen a loophole for them to now come in and strike.
After that lapsed.
You listen to her and she said that there are two perspectives to that CBA. That one, upon lapsing, there are people who treat it as dead. Mm-hmm. And so they start new negotiations. And two, she said that there are people who think that after the lapse of that CBA, it continues until another one comes into play. But she was not committed on where she stands. She doesn't want to say that for me, I believe that CBA is dead.
Okay.
So it's just a loophole they're looking for.
That's her justification for changing the conversation on the amount.
Switch, yeah.
Okay.
And let me take you back to November 2022 when the CS came into office. She came on mainstream media, and on our cameras, she said that an intern is paid more than a doctor. She has laid grounds for this conversation ever since she came into the office. And you wonder, why is the ministry so bitter about interns?
Okay.
Because your very first interview as a CS, you have gun pointed at an intern, telling the entire nation how an intern doctor is paid much more than an employed doctor. So she has laid this conversation over time, and now she has seen a time to strike and make sure that the interns are out of the system. But the question is, who suffers in the movie? Because you remove the intern in the picture, you leave lesser doctors, you leave many patients in play. Who suffers at the end of the day?
At a time when we're going to be deducted that 2.75% from our salaries towards a new health system, do you think that is it an issue of priority? Because the money definitely is going to be a lot more. But if at all the human resource within the field is not sorted out, then it means that SHIF could just be another bungled up government program. Do you understand from a medical practitioner's perspective the government plan for the rollout of the SHIF, and do you see your place in it as a professional, Dr. Bernice?
So it's really quite interesting that at the time when we are now having the new deduction, the 2.75% gross, at this point is where we'd be probably seeing goodwill from the government side that yes, we are collecting more money to strengthen our healthcare system. Because like if you look at the SDG and the SDGs rates that we should be strengthening the healthcare system and the workforce. What does this mean? It means that we are reducing the patient-doctor ratio. It means we are using this new tax that you're collecting to increase the workforce, to make sure that there's less burden on the hospitals. It means we are training more residents to make sure that each sub-county has all the specialists that they need. It means that if even an MP gets an accident here and they're not able to be flown somewhere else, that their local district hospital will have a cardiothoracic surgeon, will have a neurosurgeon to attend to them. So these are the conversation we would have expected to be hearing with this new tax. But for us to be going back when we are introducing a new tax, you see, it's not something that we would have expected, because if you're collecting more taxes, then it means you should have been
specifically for health.
Yes, specifically for health.
Hence my question: do you see your space? Do you understand your space or your role in the new SHIF? Because I've seen complaints online. Doctors complaining about the removal of Linda Mama program, the removal of Edu Afia, and all these things. And many Kenyans have opposed SHIF, probably mainly because of the deduction. But you, from an inside perspective, do you see your space in SHIF?
So currently, as Bernice has just said, I do not see the goodwill from the government. There are a few key aspects that need to improve regardless of regime. For example, education, food security, and top of those on the list is something like healthcare. Healthcare should not get worse, regardless of whether it is President Uhuru Kenyatta or President William Ruto or the next president after that. Things like healthcare and education should actually get better. We are living in a time where healthcare is becoming worse. The patient has to pay so much more to access medical services. The doctors are in fact getting frustrated. Now the question becomes, if we are getting deduction, does that mean that we also need to work less? Now the deficit of when we do not work, for example, the internship program says you should work 40 hours a week. We work 130 hours a week. And the reason we work on 30 hours a week is because they're not doctors. So for example, during the nights, do we not come to work? Because, and even if interns don't come to work, who will work at night? There's a huge deficit of doctors in level 5s. The other thing I'll tell you is this, the political class cannot fix a problem that they do not face. What does this mean? When an MP, for example, becomes sick, they will not go to Kiambu level 5. They will not go to a public hospital. But now, the common Wanjiku will actually have to go to Kiambu level 5, where they're going to meet an intern. And the interns are the one who carry the burden of the healthcare system. An intern at Aga Khan will not do the same role as an intern at a public hospital. So what you need to understand is we are not seeing the goodwill from the government. We think things are becoming deceptively, like they're becoming extremely poorer with time.
Do you see things improving with SHIF? That's a question, because now we're changing the regime totally into a new system that many people do not understand. And I'm trying to see, do you understand it from your perspective as doctors, as practitioners in the field?
A good measure of how they would handle 2.75% is looking at how they handled the previous amount. If today I gave you 100,000 shillings and you use it poorly, if I give you 200,000 shillings, you'll only do things even worse. Okay? So the government has been taking out the money from us, right, through NHIF. Did they do anything with it? I don't think so. Another thing I also want to talk about, like the whole discussion has been centered on internship and payment. One thing you must know is that the KMPDU has 19 issues.
Yes.
One of which is comprehensive medical cover. Do the CASs get comprehensive medical cover? Yes, they do. Do the medical doctors get comprehensive medical cover? No, they don't. That is to mean if today
doctors do not get comprehensive.
No, they do not. We do not have comprehensive medical cover. Don't let the discussion about interns and money confuse the whole thing.
That's the biggest discussion.
We do have 19 issues, not even one, 19 issues. If you look at the dailies, some of which are comprehensive medical cover, delayed posting and payment, the residency program, you know, a doctor is someone who interacts with, like, basically where you work is full of diseases, okay? So during COVID, the interns did go to work. You understand that? When everybody else was at home, the so-called students, according to the CS, were at work. If a doctor has no comprehensive medical cover, who in this country should actually, who actually deserves one? If I cannot make a case for a doctor who handles patients with infectious diseases getting a comprehensive medical cover, who else will get it? Doctors will give a service that we ourselves cannot afford. Tomorrow here, if I get a head injury, I require a neurosurgeon, believe me, all of you mtanichangia pa pesa, because I cannot afford services which I give every single day.
Okay.
So I don't think there's room for more deduction. And if there is, the government should show us a goodwill that anyway, something's actually going to get better. But from the look of things, even the common Wanjiku can tell you, things are not getting better. Because things are becoming tighter. The hospitals are, like nowadays, if you go to hospital, you can be as sick as you want, but they'll tell you have to pay like a minimum. You have to buy the card. Like in December, I was working at hospital where someone came with a deep cut. Sometimes you are told you have to pay because the hospital has no money. Mbona wana pesa? Serikali haijawapatia pesa. So who has to suffer? The patient has to suffer. I have personally paid for patients several times. I have had to run a campaign that a child who was hit by a vehicle required a head CT scan. Before the head CT scan, there's nothing you can do. Without the head CT scan, the child dies. I had to go to Twitter and say, guys, ebu tuchangeni mtoto pesa. In a government
facility.
Yes, at a government facility, tulbi tumechanga. I have personally paid, and I believe in the other doctors here, have personally paid money for patients for crucial tests. Not because I am rich. Sometimes it's just about compassion. So if the government did not do anything with my previous deduction in NHIF, it will not do anything better with the 2.75%.
Okay. And to come in on that, Fred, for you to change from one system to another, there's something wrong that you must identify, and then say there's something wrong with NHIF.
There must be a problem you're fixing.
So that's why we're moving to SHIF. Tell me, what is this thing that was wrong with NHIF? NHIF was a perfect plan. There were issues, a bit of issues with the management, of course corruption here and there. We saw several hospitals being closed down because of defrauding the government. There were issues with NHIF. But did that actually warrant a shift from NHIF to SHIF?
A more expensive system.
A more expensive system? No. The same thing that happened with the university funding. Is it that the funding was not working? That's why we moved to a higher education funding plan that the government has introduced? No. We have a government that actually wants to have an overhaul of the system, regardless of whether it is working or it is not working. And that's a problem. A government is supposed to have continuity. If I found NHIF, I make it better. So tell me, in 2027 or in 2032, when another government comes in, now they will change from SHIF to what? We don't know. So if every time we keep on changing because we want to bring in some politics and some gimmicks and some theatrics, it becomes a problem.
Okay.
Especially in aspects that require professionalism, you need to be very careful the way you handle things. Why would you remove Linda Mama? It was a perfect system that was working for mothers. Go to Gatondo, level 4. People come from all over to go to Gatondo level 4 to just go for the maternity because it is good, it is working. There's Linda Mama that was working. So you remove it and then you replace it with what? Nothing. The government needs to be very keen and very careful when they are dealing with matters healthcare. Okay. And as I began by saying, if the government is intentional about UHC, then they need to stop the politics. Okay. They need to look at issues objectively. Look at NHIF and tell us, come and do submit memoranda and come and submit your views on these. NHIF is failing here. This is what we need to fix. So when we know what we need to fix, then we can agree we have need to move to SHIF. But there is actually nothing that you are fixing. We are increasing the deduction as across the board, and then we are not doing better than we were doing with the NHIF. Okay. And that's a big problem. And just before you move on, yeah? Among the things that needs to be done and what KMPDU has gone to strike for is the renegotiation of the 2017 CBA. And people need to get this very clear because I see the CS has managed to paint a picture of the doctors, and now out there we are being fought. Everyone is thinking that you are the bad guys, you are the people who don't understand. She's done pretty well on that. But let her tell people that we want a renegotiation of the 2017 CBA.
From that level.
And is the government willing to renegotiate and come up with another CBA that will take us now from where we are, maybe to the next 7 years? Okay. If the government is not willing to negotiate, they're willing to seek advisories from Treasury, to seek advisories from I don't know where.
Purely on a monetary perspective.
Purely on political grounds. Okay. You just want to play politics with the patient's lives. And this is what is very wrong with this whole saga that is
I know, Dr. Branis, you may want to comment on probably the Linda Mama before we move on to because I know it's a devolved issue and I want you to clarify on some of the statements made by governors regarding the strike. But on this Linda Mama issue, please.
Yes. So on this Linda Mama issue, what it really did is to really decrease the mortality rates that we were having as a country. And even now, since they removed it, you can see people saying that the mortality rates are increasing. So what was Linda Mama doing? Linda Mama was making sure that it didn't matter your financial status. If you were pregnant, you walked into a public hospital, you delivered your baby, and you were discharged without paying anything. So you see, this is a very crucial thing. It means if you're not having that, it means you'll end up at a quack hospital, or you try to deliver at home, and if you have complications, you'll not have specialists to attend to you. So we are saying that if indeed this SHIF is going to be good to us, where are we getting the most important things, the things that have created impact to the society being removed? Okay, so these are the questions we are having. Okay, and even as we talk about the Linda Mama, there's one thing Dr. Austin mentioned, that this whole strike has been put into interns, but like he said, there are 19 other issues that are being taken. And one thing that is special to me is the residency program. Now, maybe a lot of Kenyans don't know what residents do, so maybe I just want to explain what this resident do. So a resident is a master's student. Like you said, there's a hierarchy. You're an intern, and then in an ideal system, you directly become a resident. But in our system, you end up become a medical officer, then now you go back to school to do your master's. Now, let me take, for example, Kenyatta National Hospital, okay? Now, if you go to Kenyatta National Hospital, the people who will first contact with you will be the intern. The intern will then communicate to the surgical or medical, internal medicine resident. These are master students that are doing maybe cardiology, cardiothoracic surgeons. So basically, referral hospitals are run by interns and residents. Now we're talking about a group of people who are saying now they want to cut their pay. And now there's this whole group that people don't understand that are working entirely for free. These are now
no stipend for
no stipend, nothing. So we're talking about people who, for some reason, the lucky ones maybe get government sponsorship. The others, like me, for example, who finished school at a time where government posting was already cut. So it means we were at a place where if you want to go to masters, you're going to have to be self-sponsored, okay? So you're at a place where you've already finished internship. The government is not posting you to be a dental officer or a medical officer. And now you know for medicine, you have to specialize. So you're stuck with, do I continue to wallow into this unemployment, continue to be a chronic MO, or do I go back to school to be a resident? Now at this point, you, when you land into KNH, for example, and you need surgery, okay? You've had an accident, you've lost a limb, or your limb is almost getting amputated. The people who do surgery for you with supervision of, obviously from the consultants, are the surgical residents. So these are the guys who are doing the craniotomies in Kenyatta. These are the guys doing surgery on your abdomen to save your life. These are the people who are resuscitating you back to life. But these are people who are not getting a single cent. These are people who are sometimes are on call Monday to Monday, and they're not getting any remuneration.
So this is part of the 19 issues.
Yes, these are part of the 19 issues. So you see, all these 19 issues are important. So we are saying that in other countries, for example, if you finish internship, you get into a residency program. And this residency is paid because these are working people. These are people who are clocking hours. So you're stuck with the very tired, demotivated residents, because let's think that these are people maybe in their early 30s, they have families, they're paying for their school, their rent, they have children, they're paying for school fees. So when they finish their shifts in Kenyatta, instead of going home to rest, for example, they are in other hospitals trying to get an income to pay their rent, because the work they're doing, they're not being paid for. Wow. So you can imagine, like, for example, dentists who don't have night shifts. For example, myself. This is the reason now maybe why I run Nexia Dental. Because as being a resident, I'm not getting any payment from the government. Yet all that work I'm doing at Kenyatta, I still have to...
You still work at Kenyatta?
Yes, I still have to use my weekends and my free days to earn an income for myself, to support my family. But you see, in a state where we had an ideal system, it means a resident would focus all their energies into being a very good specialist, okay? It means that the little money the government will give them would be enough to pay their rent, will be enough to take care of the families. And any little free time they're resting at home or reading and studying, so that by the time they finish their residency program, they've really utilized all the resources to be a good...
And because now health is a devolved function.
Yeah.
And, yes, going back to the strike, Dr. Omondi, we had the Nairobi governor actually issue a directive to doctors hired directly by the county, and told shida sio yenu, come back to work. And there appears to be a disconnect, and the Kenyans are not understanding, okay, fine. So who's supposed to be on strike, who's not? Try and clarify that for us, because we understand it is counties that hire doctors.
Okay, so currently from the old regime, there are doctors who are hired by the national government, but since the county regimes came, doctors are hired by the county government. So what do counties do? Counties do not do not hire doctors. Why? Because there's an over-reliance of medical interns. I'll give an example. At most level 5s, I don't think many have above 10 medical officers, okay? And in a hospital which handles a population of, let's say, 500,000 to 1 million people, 10 people cannot possibly see all, like, handle that kind of population. So the county government usually rely on medical interns. So what, like, Governor Sakaja is trying to do is basically twist the guys who are employed by the county not to join the strike, or else you've been told, ukijoin strike kuna wenzako hawana kazi, so we'll fire you and put them, you know. It's like you're stealing from Peter to give Paul, like that doesn't
make... But it's the same team.
Yeah, it's basically the same team, you know. So the governors are basically trying to twist so that the counties do not suffer. But at the same time, can you imagine if KMPDC were to say we will not give particular centers in turns? How the healthcare system work?
Wow.
You get it's really a catch-22. And this thing about, for example, like what Dr. Bandits is saying about the residency program, assuming your mother or yourself were to get an accident, like, do you really want the person operating on you to be unpaid? Are you really that comfortable? Kwamba kitoka hapo, or maybe even the last night alikuwa locum anafanya kazi usiku mzima, then the next morning they have to be at work because first of all you have to feed your family, so that's why you work the whole night. In the morning when you come, let's say you have a bleeder in your brain, the person who is operating on you has not had enough rest. The person who is operating on you does not get paid. I mean, are you really comfortable?
Overworked and underpaid.
And not paid.
Not paid.
Not paid.
Underpaid, it's not paid.
Not paid at all.
Yeah.
And coming to...
I see that it's not a very unique problem to Kenya because currently junior doctors in Britain are also on strike. They've been on strike for the past 1 year. At least 10 times they've conducted walkouts. And I'm wondering, because this government has been very big on saying that you can go work outside. And the guys listening to you, and you wonder, hey, with all these brains, why would one choose to suffer here in Kenya? They can go and offer their services outside. That's a question many are asking. And we have very little time, so I'll give you probably 2 minutes each to contribute to that as you make your final remarks.
You see, Fred, even among the poor, there's the poorest. So the problem that other doctors are facing outside there, they might be similar. But we are in the trenches. As doctors, we are in the trenches. You talked about the counties, and I will ask you a question. Take your day, go to your papers, and look at every time a county advertises for jobs, how many doctors they hire. You'll see a whole county puts an advert on the paper. I don't know how much they charge to put an advert on paper. A whole county puts an advert on paper to hire only 2 doctors, 1 pharmacist, and 1 dentist. What does that tell you? That even at the county level, no one is really interested about the healthcare. It's about how do we cut costs? How do we have people who we don't pay? How do we have lesser doctors who are not going to complain? How can we have more CEOs who we can overwork? How can we have more interns who we can overwork? That is the way they look at it. And that's why I said this issue has been over-politicized.
Do you think, and this is just off my head, do you think that this devolved system of government is what really messed up the health sector?
Thank you, I was coming to that. Uzi, when the CS was on an interview, she said that we need to separate the issues that KMPD is bringing to her and what belongs to the county. Who is the Cabinet Secretary for Health? She is the Cabinet Secretary for Health. Whether the CECMs in charge of health report to the governors as well as by extension to the CS. We've seen her launch projects in the counties. Why does it that when it comes to solving issues, she now wants to throw them to the governor and say those issues belong to the governors, not to me? It's shifting the blame so that the system continues to get more paralyzed. And if she actually believes that there's a problem with the counties, we're asking to renegotiate the CBA. Why doesn't the government now, through the CS, bring an issue of taking the health back to the national government? If they also feel that it is not working, and if they say that it's going to derail them from achieving UHC, let them be intentional and take it from the county governments to the national government. If not so, let them strengthen the counties and stop shifting the blame. Let them strengthen the counties to make sure that we have laws that in this county, this number of doctors need to be employed. This number of pharmacists, dentists and MOs need to be employed, so that we don't have this mediocrity of employing 2 doctors every time you're hiring for an entire county. Take a county like, say, maybe Nakuru. What's the population of Nakuru?
It's a very vast county.
It's a very big county. How many doctors do we have? They put an advert the other day. Not even a single pharmacist was hired. The number of MOs that were, I think they were less than 10. So what are we doing? We are playing games with healthcare.
Okay.
And by extension, we are playing games with the patients' lives. We are leaving them to unpaid and overworked doctors.
Unpaid, not even underpaid, unpaid.
Because now, again, another issue that has been raised by KMPDU is that the government owes doctors, I think, 4 billion. That's the amount of money that cumulatively, that's the amount that is owed to doctors. So there are counties that even pay doctors after 4 or 5 months.
Dr. Bernice.
So for me, I feel like there are counties that took advantage of this situation and they are really doing a good job. Some counties are actually they're looking at the healthcare system and they're saying, how many general surgeons do we have? How many anesthetists do we have? How many pediatric surgeons do we have? And they're looking at the deficit that they have and they're saying, okay, which medical doctors want to go and specialize in this, and we're actually going to support you to do their specialty, and then you come back. So there are counties that devolution was actually good for them and they are actually supporting the healthcare professionals. And then there are counties that are threatening people who are going back to specialize, that cutting off their salaries. So for me, I feel like either all counties, you can't dictate what the counties can do. Maybe the best thing would have been to maintain the healthcare at the national level, especially the workforce, okay? So that centralized workforce, so that at the national level you identify, okay, how many general surgeons are in Kakamega, how many cardiothoracic surgeons are in Mombasa, and what deficits do we have? So how many people do we need to train to make sure that Mombasa has enough specialists? So that we are looking at it from a national level, so that where there's a deficit, more people are being encouraged to train so that these people can go back and do those specialties.
Thank you. And finally, Dr. Modi.
I think I have two closing remarks. One addressed to the government, another one addressed to just the general population, like the common mwananchi like myself. So the first thing I'd like to say is the voice of people is the voice of God. Okay? I believe everybody can agree that we don't need to spend catastrophically on health. We've seen very many people, mtu anakuwa mgonjwa, you do harambes, you pay so much, the patient dies anyway, mgonjwa ameshinda kulipa bill, mwili umefungiwa kwa mochari, nini. Hizo ni shida that our political class do not face. Okay? So their comprehensive medical cover actually protects them against that. But the common mwananchi, including most doctors, face these kind of problems. Okay? Madaktari wengi, in fact, we have a law amongst ourselves that mmoja akiwa mgonjwa usually offer, like, you will pay for the bed, anything administrative, but like the physical act of of doctor's fees, we usually treat each other for free, knowing very well that we cannot afford healthcare. The common mwananchi cannot afford healthcare. So I think everybody wants a situation where mtu akikuwa mgonjwa, it's not a choice between does my mother die or do I become broke for life? Wow. You get? Wow. So the voice of the people is the voice of God. A few guys who do not face our common problems cannot dictate for the rest of us how we get to live our lives. You know, like, in fact, if they have been chosen, and this government is very heavy on God, by the way. So if they have indeed been chosen by God, let them listen to us, because the voice of the people is the voice of God. That's the very first thing I'd like to say. Okay. The other thing I'd like to speak, I believe Dr. William Samoei Ruto is a very smart man. And I believe this is where he should put those smarts into practice. When he was campaigning, I think he was very smooth-tongued, and he really spoke to majority of the Kenyans and said, I'm going to make things better compared to previous regimes. Okay? There are things which President Kibaki did that we all felt. Like, for example, free primary education. I believe that one was felt across the board. Ilikuwa kama mtoto wako ako school going age, ako nyumbani, they had to go to school because it is free anyway. President Uhuru Kenyatta came and gave us the Linda Mama program. It was felt across the board. We want President William Samoei Ruto to do something similar. You know, let the common mwananchi without removing whatever is already there. Because the point of the government is to build up. You know, once education has gotten to a certain point, we cannot bring it back down. We can only get better. You know, the same things that the political class enjoy, if they're enjoying better salaries, better medical covers, from the last 10, 15 years, if their lives are getting better, so should the life of Mananchi. Okay. And as a person who's seen people die, like in this profession, let me tell you, the rich do not die any differently from the poor.
They die anyway.
In fact, it is even more painful for a rich man to die than it is for a poor man. Because a poor man has nothing to lose. Most Kenyans have nothing to lose.
Wow. They've seen it all. Overworked, underpaid, and in some cases not paid at all. That's the state of our health crisis that we're looking at this morning. With a strike by doctors entering the 8th day today. KMPDU, the union representing doctors and other medical practitioners, are going to be leading a protest march in Nairobi and countrywide today as they continue with their protests. And an attempt to mediate, led by Head of Public Service Felix Koskei, went late into the night, and by this morning there was still no white smoke. So the status quo remains. Thank you so much, Dr. Bernard Karanja, pharmacist.
Asante sana, mtusaidie bana. Even in the media, try articulate these issues, try and talk to the government. Fight for us, fight for us.
Dr. Branis Munyasa, a dentist, and Dr. Austin Omondi, medical officer. Thank you so much for helping